Hello, and welcome to Reclaiming Your Voice, the podcast where we tell the truth about what it means to live, lead, and show up fully in spaces that were not always built with us in mind. I'm Dr. Marva Tutt, educator, leadership strategist, and your favorite voice, liberation advocate. Each episode, we create space for real conversations that identify power, purpose, and the courage it takes to stop shrinking and start speaking. This is not just a podcast, this is a movement toward clarity, toward healing, toward alignment. If you've ever felt misunderstood, overlooked, or like you had to become someone else just to survive, you are in the right place. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin the work of reclaiming your voice. So tonight we have with us Juanita Walters. So tell us who you are behind the titles, behind the resume, behind all of that. Tell us who you are.
Oh, behind the titles, behind the resumes. That is a good question. I am someone that likes to laugh. I love to read. I love to write. I love family. Um, I like to write poetry. That is like one of my favorite things. And I'm just simply down to earth. So like, and I think I always get in trouble with this question of like, tell me who you are, because like one of my good friends is like, tell them that you're this, and she rattles off all the different titles, and I'm like, I'm Juanita, right? Like I'm a woman. I'm a woman of God. Like I'm so much more than being a mother and all the other titles that come. Like I'm really down to earth and I like to chill and I'm really evolving into who I am right now.
All right. So let's rattle off the titles and tell us who you are, because we like to hype up our black women. We the most educated population. So tell us, let's rattle them off real quick.
All right, current doctoral student. I defend my dissertation next year.
Okay.
Um, Mother, author, licensed minister, educator. My background is in special education, literacy expert. So those are just a few.
All right. So tell us about your dissertation. What's your work on? Work around.
My work is around literacy and culturally responsive practices. So it's something that is near and dear to my heart, especially coming from having a special education background as a teacher, as a leader. It's something that is near and dear to my heart.
So what's the experience that cracked you open and changed your direction?
Ooh, the experience. So I worked in jail for 8 years.
Okay.
Before I came into education, I worked in jail for 8 years, and I got to see the other side. So when I crossed over back into education, it was really eye-opening for me because the parallels I saw working in jail, and then when I came into the school, I'm like, what in the world is happening? And I think that like really shifted my thinking in terms of education. Like I've always loved education, but when I started to see some of the parallels, it was like I'm not going to say a culture shock for me, but it was disheartening. I mean, it just fueled me even more so to go hard for students and to really begin to like perfect my craft as an educator.
All right. So I hear an accent. Where are you from?
I'm from New York. My family's from North Carolina, but I've been born and raised in New York and outside of the times my mother shipped us to North Carolina.
Okay. All right. So when did you first understand that silence was costing you something?
Ooh, I want to say as a little girl, I
Okay.
was always quiet and into my books. So I never liked conflict. So even if I was being bothered or I had something to say, I never really said anything because I didn't want to get into a fight and I didn't want people to bother me. And then when you grow up in a family of alpha women that like are very boisterous and very like you kind of just say, you know what, they not saying that they weren't going to hear me, but a lot of times I didn't feel like I was seen or heard. So I knew that like I was going to have to fight my way to like find my voice.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the connection and invitation. So how did we find each other, and what made you say yes to this podcast?
On social media.
Okay.
And when I started reclaiming my voice, I was like, oh my God, that is like the phase that I'm in right now of like really becoming Juanita. And it is so crazy because I'm in my 40s and I'm like, well, what do you mean reclaiming my voice and becoming Juanita? Like, you're in your 40s, you should have become already. But, God was just like, no, you really are finding your voice, right? Your voice changes as you grow and you mature. You really learn what your voice is authentically.
Good. All right. So let's look into your struggles and resilience, and as you say, becoming Juanita. So tell me about a moment you were dismissed, minimized, or made to feel like too much, and what happened next.
Cool. A time that I felt that I can't really say I could pinpoint that except for like it's been a feeling that I've had since I was a little girl of like she's a nerd, she's quiet. A lot of times I'm very reserved, so I won't say nothing. So I felt like a lot of times even when I did speak, it would be like, why are you using such big words? Why are you talking like that? Or sometimes I would have to fight to get my voice heard. And so it became a learned thing of, all these people have something to say. And the minute that I open my voice, it's almost sort of like my voice is being overshadowed. So I learned like, just be quiet. You talk when you need to talk, or you just kind of exist. And so a lot of times I just blended into the wall. And then when I did speak, they're like, well, why didn't you say anything before? I'm like, because when I did speak, it was kind of sort of like, the people who felt like they had the right to speak always spoke and overshadowed and overpowered anybody else. So it was just like, why am I going to talk? And I always felt like, even growing up in my family, again, my grandmother was like big mama, and just growing up with like, I'm one of six. So, and then like we have a big family. So when you grow up and a lot of the women have powerful voices and they're always speaking and you're like one of the youngest, sometimes it's easy to lose your voice or feel like if you don't sound like them or if you don't emulate how they speak and show up, then no one is really going to hear you. So for me, that became a really strong internal battle of I don't want to sound like them. I want to sound like Juanita. And so that was always a big fight for me because when I would talk, well, you should talk like this. You should say it like this, or even down to you sound white. And so I used to get like, okay, you sound like an Oreo, you sound like a Triscuit. And that came from inside and outside. So a lot of times I'm like, well, if I can't use big vocabulary words, or if when I do speak, because I speak in a certain way, I'm being told that I sound white or I feel like I'm better than other people, then I'm just be quiet. And it wasn't until like I started getting older, I realized that no, I don't have to be quiet.
That's good. I like it. So, thinking about your purpose and impact and what you're doing now with literacy and all, because that's a big thing, and you worked in the prison and you know that cradle, at this point, cradle to prison pipeline. What are you building and who are you building it for?
Oof, what I'm building. So my my doctoral journey, because I've always tried to run from leadership, even
Uh-huh.
even now, like I'm sitting down and they're like, yeah, okay, you're gonna sit for so long. But even now, thinking about my journal, why am I doing it? Who am I doing it for? I'm doing it for our kids to have a fighting chance. I'm raising two black sons, right? 22 and 13. And when I think about them and when I think about my 11 nieces and nephews, or when I see the faces of my students, that is like, you guys deserve people that are on the front line fighting for you. And so a lot of it is fighting for them to really have safe spaces where they can be curious, they can be innovative, they can explore, they can really show up authentically as who they are rather than what society tells them they should be. And I think a lot of times we put on to kids and to even adults what they should be. So me going into this doctoral journey and plus even being an educator is if you don't know how to read and write and understand that's your freedom. That's our legacy. Like we come from a lineage of people that had to fight to read, right? And so my fight is really like, no, my babies are gonna learn how to read. They're gonna not only learn how to read, they're gonna understand what they read. They're gonna learn how to write. They're gonna be able to think critically. So when I think about why am I doing this, is because I know what education did for me. Education was my safe space. It was a place where I felt like I was able to be free. And that's the same gift I would like to share with my students and even with educators. Like education, learning how to read and just showing up in educational spaces is a freedom thing. It's a free space.
So I want to go back to when you worked in a jail. Like, what was your job there, and how did you find your way out?
I was an officer. I was a correction officer.
Oh, okay. How did you get into that?
So it's so crazy. I was a paraprofessional before I went into working in jail, and I was going to school, and I ended up getting pregnant with my oldest son, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I gotta make money. Now I'm not from the hood, I'm not from the streets, but my son's father, who I was dating at the time, his sister, she went into corrections, and she was like, "Oh, they're making this amount of money," and so we both ended up like taking the test, and I'm like, "Well, it's way more money. It's more money than what I'm making as a para, so I might as well go and do this because I got to feed my son." And when I got in there, it was just like, you know, when somebody's like a fish out of water. I'm in there like, yeah, she don't belong here, but you adapt, right? Like you learn the
Mm-hmm.
belly of the beast. And so for 8 years, I'm working in jail, but the educator in me never left because there are times where I was working in housing areas and I had this book called A Thousand Most Important Words. So sometimes I would be like, when you're a new officer, they put you in what they call the projects or the Bing and stuff. So you gotta earn your way up. So I'm working in these tough housing areas, and so I would come in there sometimes like, this the word of our day, right? The word might be loquacious, the word might be there, and it'd be funny because sometimes I would walk down the corridor and an inmate would be Miss Walters, and they'll say the vocabulary, and other officers were like, "What the hell are you doing?" Listen, I'm sitting in here for 8 hours, 16 hours a day. This is like, yeah, I gotta find something to do. I'm not gonna learn their language.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna learn their language for survival purposes, but like I'm not gonna lose who I am. And then I remember just being in there stuck 4 out of 4, working 16-hour days, day in. Sometimes I would work my regular shift and I would have like over 50 or 60 hours of overtime raising my kids, and I'm like, okay, God, this can't happen. So I started going back to school for my master's degree, and so I would bring my laptop, my homework in the jail, and then I would sit in the locker room and do my homework. And then one day I was like, God, I'm not doing this for 20 years. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this for 20 years. And I remember going to my warden. I wrote my letter of resignation. I had gotten to the teachers fellows, and I knew it was going to be a drastic pay cut. And I said, I'm resigning. Here's my 2 weeks notice. He's like, are you crazy? You're about to be a captain. I was like, this is not where God has me to go. Like, my calling is to teach. My calling is to be. And I remember when I did the interview for teaching fellows, the interviewer was like, you were part of the output. Now you get to be part of the input. And that never left me. And so when I put in my 2 weeks notice, I took like a $50,000 pay cut
Ooh.
while raising my kids, but God always sustained us. Like we have never been without. And so when you're called to something and when God chooses you for something, He will make sure that you're covered. And I never looked back. But I can say it made me approach being an educator different. It made me understand, like, I've always worked in urban neighborhoods. So, like, I fight for my kids. Like, nah, this is what we're not going to do. I've worked where I don't want them to go. So, sometimes I'm not the popular person.
All right.
Makes
So
sense.
listen,
Hmm.
So, what does it look like? Because you say you raising two black sons in this day and age. Like my nephew is 25, and my sister worries about him all the time, right? Because it's not necessarily anything he's doing, but the media and the way they just portray our black boys and stuff like that. So, with that, how do you stay grounded under pressure?
Prayer. So one
Okay.
of my first thing is prayer. I have to pray. I have scriptures. Um, I have songs that like I have to, and then like now songs that I might start singing, but like recently now it's been embracing the pause, being able to pause, sit still, think before I react. Therapy played a lot of a huge impact because I'm an advocate of God plus therapy. So I have been like on my therapy journey, right? So there's times where I need to decompress and I need to explore my feelings and I need to make sure I'm good and that I have a level of spiritual and emotional intelligence that allows me to navigate pressure in a way that's not only healthy for me, but healthy for the people that are interacting. Has it always been that way? Absolutely not. I could have gone from a 0 to 100 real quick, but I've also learned like in maturity that's not helpful. It's not conducive. So learning how to pause, learning how to look inner, learning how to be able to communicate what you need and what you want in a healthy way. And then also understanding that you're going to have to manage your expectations because not everybody, even though you might package it pretty, not everybody's going to be receptive, but you have to be mindful not to take the bait and not to be pulled out of character when that does happen.
That sounds good. I like it. So, let's have fun for a second. What's your walk up song right now and why?
Oh, I have a remix.
Oh, not a remix. Okay.
I got a remix. I just came from watching Michael Jackson. So, the first one is Beat It.
Okay.
The first one is Beat It. And the
Okay.
first one is Beat It because it's like, if you're not, whatever's not in alignment from God, beat it.
Okay.
I don't have time for it. I got time to play games. If we not talking about how we gonna make sure our kids are good and our educators good, beat it, right? If you here with drama and it's not peace, beat it, right? But
Right.
also, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. Like I'm going in it first, right? Like I'm looking at Juanita. What does Juanita need to do to become a better me? Because I can't fix everybody else. I gotta fix me. That's the person that have control of. So I'm starting with the woman in the mirror.
Okay.
um, and then when it comes personally, Lisa Stanfield had like been around the world and I can't find my baby. It's just like the dating scene is like real crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Like I
And I'm in little
travel.
Augusta, Georgia, so you know it's what you got in New York. But go ahead.
Listen, I had posted like a meme like I've been on more flights than dates this year. And it's real, right? So it's like I've been around the world, and I'm not saying I can't find my he can't find me. So my that's my remix right now.
All right. So we're gonna close up with this one. What's something you want to tell the audience, and how are you currently reclaiming your voice?
How am I currently reclaiming my voice? Um, Discovering who Juanita is, what Juanita likes, who is she really? And then reclaiming my voice means that I'm going to show up authentically and unapologetically me. And then understanding that when I walk in rooms, and for those that are listening, when you walk in rooms, you have something powerful to say, right? And own that, right? And I can't tell you how many times where I felt nervous about speaking, but then the feedback, the testimonies of after I spoke, it was just reaffirming to God that like you have something powerful to say and that there are people that are connected and waiting for you to speak, right? There are people that are connected to your voice. And I would say that and share that with those who are listening. There are people waiting for you to stand up and own your voice. And it's your voice that's going to speak to the purpose and the calling in them. So when you step out, you not only free you, but you also free those that are also connected to you.
Well, we appreciate you coming on with us today, and It's just been a pleasure. So, to the audience, your voice was never lost. It was waiting for you to come back to it. So, thank you, Miss Walters.
Thank you.